So, I'm excited to introduce Anshul Roy. Anshul is a visual artist from India, currently based in New York. His artistic practice is inspired by post colonial discourses, exploring issues like cultural representation, identity, historical memory, and visual ethics. He's exhibited his work in several places, including the IIDRR Gallery, Art Gallery of Peterborough, Lightwork, and the Manifest Gallery. There's a content warning for this talk with potentially distressing images from the archives discussed, but I'll now pass over to Anshul, who's going to trace to a live performance. So over to you, Anshul.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. And during my residency, I've been grappling with the question of what is a good digital archive. And I have been dealing with this question by analyzing New York Public Library's digital archives, which has about 900,000 images. Some of them, which they do state, might be difficult to view or harmful. And on this page, you can see how the New York Public Library has said that how much they are proud of their collection, which is extensive, has been collected over 160 years. On the same webpage, you can also look at how they are promoting the idea of how digital technologies and internet has been extremely important for the mass infusion of information and free knowledge all across the world. And that is a true statement on some levels. But one question I think a lot about is that is technology always a force for good? Or can it also be a double edged sword in certain cases? And can it sometimes perpetuate certain historical atrocities? And I have been thinking about this question a lot ever since I have been researching colonial era photography in British India. I have been looking at this one particular book called The People of India, which is one of the world's oldest and most comprehensive ethnographic publications. It has about 460 images of Indian subjects categorized into various different types and subjects. And all these images have been digitized by the New York Public Library's archives. And you can all find them online freely. This book was started as a personal ambition of Governor General Lord Canning because he wanted to carry back representations of the people he had ruled over when he was returning back to England. In 1857, there was a first war of independence in India. And after that, the colonial government undertook this project because they wanted to understand the customs and culture of the native people so that they could rule them better. The camera was employed as an administrative tool for the process of othering and as a means of control. And ever since I opened the first page of this book, this gaze has always haunted me. These are eyes that are filled with sadness. And this is someone who has been reduced to an object. We don't even know the name of the person, he has just been reduced to a type. And for me, this book became personal since I opened the first page because this was an image taken in a place called Bhagalpur. This is a place where I was born, and I have spent some of the best days of my childhood at this place. And I thought a lot about that. Had I been born 150 years ago, this might have been a person who I might know. I could have been the person facing the colonial camera had I been born in a different era. And for me, this book became personal ever since I opened the first page because of this reason. And I have been looking at these images so much. This book contains so many such images in which you can see how angrily the subject stares back at the photographer. This is the face of someone who knows that she is being visually violated in some ways. This is the face of a person who knows that he is being degraded by being reduced into a caricature. And the only means of protest that these people had was through their angry faces. All they could do was stare back at the photographer angrily when they were being reduced to objects. This is how this little girl stares back angrily at the photographer. I don't know if she understood what was happening to her, but she definitely seems very scared. And we have no idea what her name was, what was this person's hopes or dreams. She was just reduced to a compositional motive in this image. And it is said that the eyes are the window to the soul. This is especially true in portrait photography. You can tell a lot about the interaction of the subject with the photographer by looking at their eyes and how the photographer was welcomed in one case and how he was resisted in the other case. Similarly, this book also contains various images that were used as visual propaganda to propagate the idea of the white man's burden. The public back home in Britain was given an idea that we need to go to India so that we could convert these people to Christianity and so that we can bring to them the fruits of Western civilization. And we need to go back and civilize these savage natives. There are lots of images which depict this idea in this book. These are people who had no agency over their self-representation 150 years ago. And now their images also exist online. The question that I'm grappling with in my work is that how should we as a more ethical society preserve, consume, and disseminate such kinds of images, images that have been made under conditions of duress, images that were made with a very nefarious purpose of othering people and showing a very one-dimensional and primitive way of life in a country. And I have thought a lot about these questions while looking at this particular image from the book. This is an image of a group who are on the verge of starvation. They are at the worst moment of their lives. They are almost dying. And 150 years ago, these people were forced to pose in front of the photographer. And now their image exists in the archive as an art print. The inspiration for me to come up and talk to an audience like that simply comes from the fact that I could not believe that the Digital Archive of New York Public Library did not pay attention to this fact. I have also talked to the archival team before and nothing was done. They still exist as an art print. And you can buy these images from the shopping cart, hand printed. I feel this is wrong and this is aestheticization of someone's suffering. I feel that every time I reload my browser tab and this image is rendered in this form, there is some perpetuation of the initial violence of the camera's shutter. And this is not something which is happening only with images from colonial India. But have a look at this image. This is an image from occupied Poland during Nazi occupation. This is an image of someone being hanged. And you can again consume this image as an art print on New York Public Library's archives. Similarly, these are images of someone's dead body. And when I looked at these images juxtaposed with a very beautiful image from the Grand Central Station by Berenice Abbott, I thought that the archive, by equating two very different kinds of images, it robs certain images of their seriousness and gravitas. And I think this is completely wrong, and this is not a good digital archive. This thing is also happening with ethnographic images from Africa of the black body, typical mugshot-like images, which can again be consumed as an art print And I thought that as an artist, I need to respond to this commodification of these images. And for this, I made this browser extension. It is freely available on the Google Chrome store. And this is my tool for digital good. All my browser extension simply does is that if you add it, it replaces all these fine art print options with an error message in an act of electronic civil disobedience. The user can no longer proceed to the checkout page because those links have been removed by the browser extension in an act of digital goodness. My work is not about cancellation of history. We cannot remove this history. We have to face these images. But my work is all about how we should contextualize such images, such terrible images, which are moments of extreme private grief for someone, and how an archive should show such images in a more conscious way. And I started this talk by saying I've been looking at what a good archive could be. And one good example which I want to give is Yale University's archive, which includes images from the S-21 concentration camp in Cambodia. During the Cambodian genocide, around 10,000 people were taken photos of before they were killed in Pol Pot's concentration camps. And all these images have been preserved by Yale University's archive. But have a look at this message which is there on their website. Images are for viewing only, they are not to be downloaded or shared. And to me, this at least shows that the digital archive and the team behind is are actually thinking of the seriousness of the images they possess and are trying to be more conscious custodians of these images. And this is all what my project is about. This is how an archive should be. And I'm trying to bring electronic civil disobedience by using my tool for digital good. And yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you so much.